The fires still burned on New Eden 3 days after the Vorthak fleet departed. Black smoke rose from what used to be cities, farms, and homes. The smell of death hung in the air like a thick blanket that would not lift. Captain Zekthul stood on the bridge of his warship, looking down at the ruined planet below. His insect-like eyes reflected the orange glow of the burning world. This was how it always went. The Vorthak came. They burned, they killed, and the survivors begged for mercy. Then came years of slow harvest, feeding on the fear and pain of broken people. But something was wrong this time. Captain, his second-in-command, buzzed through the ship's communication system. The humans are not behaving as expected. Zekthul's mandibles clicked together in annoyance. Explain. They are not crying. They are not begging. They are organizing. This was strange. Zekthul had conquered worlds for the Vorthak Empire for over 50 years. He had seen 17 different species break under their methods. The pattern was always the same. First came the shock, then the tears, then the desperate pleas for mercy. Finally, the broken acceptance that fed Vorthak hunger for centuries. But the humans on New Eden were doing something different. Reports came in from across the burning planet. Human survivors were not hiding in caves or surrendering in groups. They were building things, making weapons from farming tools, setting up communication networks in the ruins. Some were even attacking Vorthak ground forces. "Show me," Zekthul ordered. The main screen displayed a human settlement that had been hit by Vorthak flameships the day before. Half the buildings were gone. Bodies lay in the streets. But in the center of the destruction, humans moved with purpose. They dragged their dead to burial sites. They treated their wounded with calm efficiency. Most disturbing of all, they had set up some kind of command center in a damaged building. Zekthul watched a human female with burns on her arms direct other humans to defensive positions. She spoke into a radio device, coordinating with other groups across the planet. Her voice was steady. Her eyes were cold. "This is not fear," Zekthul muttered. "This is something else." His communication officer buzzed urgently.
"Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the human settlement. From survivors?"
"What do they want? Do they surrender?" "No, Captain. They want to talk to you directly." Zekthul's forearms tensed. In 50 years of conquest, no broken population had ever asked to speak to him. They screamed at him, yes. They cursed him often, but they never asked for conversation. Put them through. The screen changed to show the burned human female from the command center. Behind her, other humans worked quietly, paying no attention to the communication with their planet's destroyer. She looked directly at Zekthul through the screen. "I am Sarah Chen," she said. Her voice carried no fear, no anger, no desperation. "I was the agricultural coordinator for this settlement. I want you to know something, Captain." Zekthul found himself leaning forward. "What? We have recorded everything you did here. Every death, every burning, every moment of pain you caused. We have transmitted this data to Earth and the other human colonies. So, soon we will burn those worlds too." Sarah Chen's expression did not change. "You killed my husband. You killed my children. You killed 3 million people on this planet." She paused, her cold eyes never leaving Zekthul's. "We want you to know that we are not afraid of you." "Then you are fools. We are the Hellbringers. We have conquered 17 species. We will harvest your fear for generations." The human woman did something unexpected. She smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator who had found prey. "Captain Zekthul," she said, and hearing his name from human lips made his carapace itch with discomfort. "You made a mistake. You thought humans were like the other species you conquered. You thought if you hurt us enough we would break. All species break. Not this one." Sarah Chen leaned closer to her camera. "You see, Captain, humans have a saying. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. But we have another saying, too. If you come for the king, you better not miss." Zekthul did not understand these human phrases, but something in the woman's tone made his blood run cold. "You came for us, Captain. You burned our world. You killed our families. But you made one critical error." Sarah's smile grew wider, and for the first time in his long career of bringing terror to other species, Zekthul felt afraid. "What error?" "You left survivors." The transmission ended. Zekthul stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Around him, his crew buzzed nervously. They had all heard the human woman's words. They had seen her eyes. "Captain," his communications officer spoke carefully, What are your orders? Zekthul thought about the 17 species he had conquered. The Zelanti had wept for their dead. The Morvik had offered tribute. The Kastan had simply surrendered when they saw Vorthak ships. All of them had followed the same pattern of fear, despair, and broken acceptance. But this human woman had looked at him like he was prey. Send word to the Hive Council, Zekthul ordered. Tell them the humans are different. Different how, Captain? Zekthul looked down at New Eden, where the fire still burned but the humans still moved with purpose among the ruins. They were not rebuilding their old life. They were building something new. Something harder. Tell the Council that we may have made an error. The humans do not break like other species. What do they do instead? Zekthul watched the main screen, where thermal imaging showed human survivors working through the night. Not fleeing, not hiding, planning. They get angry, he said quietly, and they get organized. Over the following days, reports from New Eden became more disturbing. Human survivors were not just organizing for defense. They were studying Vorthak tactics. They had recovered pieces of destroyed Vorthak equipment and were somehow analyzing it. Most disturbing of all, they had captured several wounded Vorthak soldiers and were keeping them alive. Not for mercy. For information. When Zekthul finally received orders to depart New Eden and join the main fleet for the assault on Earth, he felt something he had never experienced in decades of conquest. Relief. As his ship lifted away from the burning planet, Zekthul looked one last time at the world below. The fires were finally dying out, but in the cooling ruins, thousands of small lights appeared. Human settlements, human camps, human preparations. They were not the lights of a broken people. They were the lights of a people preparing for war. Zekthul turned away from the viewport and walked to his private chambers. For the first time in his career, he would need to prepare a report explaining that a conquest had not gone according to plan. The humans had not broken. Instead, they had done something much worse. They had learned. 3 months after New Eden burned, the Vorthak Empire prepared for the final assault on Earth. The great Hive fleet gathered at the edge of human space, 1,000 ships strong. They had burned the outer colonies one by one, expecting each victory to break human resistance a little more. But the humans kept fighting. Admiral Thexvor, Supreme Commander of the Hive Fleet, stood in his command chamber reviewing reports from the conquered worlds. Each planet told the same strange story. The humans fought harder after each defeat, not weaker. They learned from every battle. They adapted to every Vorthak tactic. This is not normal behavior for prey species, his chief advisor buzzed. Thexvor's compound eyes studied the tactical displays. No, it is not. The reports were troubling. On Kepler 442b, human survivors had somehow built underground factories to produce weapons. On Ross 128b, they had turned an entire mountain into a fortress that took 3 weeks to break. On Proxima Centauri C, they had fought so fiercely that the Vorthak had been forced to retreat twice before finally winning. Each world cost more Vorthak lives than the last. Admiral, the communications officer called out. We are receiving a signal from the edge of the system. From Earth? Do they surrender? No, Admiral. It is not from Earth. The signal is coming from everywhere. Thexvor's mandibles clicked in confusion. Explain. The tactical display lit up with hundreds of contact points scattered throughout the system. Ships were emerging from behind asteroids, moons, and gas giant rings. Human ships. Lots of them. How did they get so many vessels? Thexvor demanded. Our intelligence said they had no significant fleet. Admiral, the sensor operator buzzed urgently. These ships are not like the human vessels we have encountered before. They are different. The main screen showed the approaching human fleet. The ships were dark, angular, and moved in perfect silence through space. No radio chatter. No identification signals. No demands for surrender or threats of retaliation. They simply came forward like a tide of shadows. Still no communication from the human fleet. Admiral, this disturbed Thexvor more than he wanted to admit. Every species the Vorthak had conquered talked too much during battle. They made speeches about honor, or screamed threats or begged for mercy. But these human ships moved through space in complete silence. Try to communicate with them, Thexvor ordered. Admiral, we have been trying. They do not respond to any frequency. The human fleet continued its approach. As they drew closer, The Vorthak sensors began picking up more details about the alien ships. They were built for war, but not in any way the Vorthak understood. Instead of heavy armor and massive weapons, they seemed designed for something else. Analysis of human vessel design report. His tactical officer studied the data. Admiral, their ships appear optimized for stealth speed and psychological warfare. Psychological warfare? Yes, Admiral. Look at this. The screen displayed a close-up of one human ship. Its hull was painted matte black and covered in strange symbols. As the Vorthak watched, lights began appearing along the ship's surface. Not weapon ports or communication arrays. Eyes. Hundreds of glowing eyes covering the hull of the ship, all looking directly at the Vorthak fleet. What is the purpose of this? Thexvor asked, but his voice carried a tremor he did not like. Unknown, Admiral. But it is having an effect on our crews. Many are reporting discomfort. Thexvor looked around his command chamber. His normally efficient crew buzzed nervously at their stations. The sight of those hundreds of eyes staring at them from the human ship was unnerving even veteran Vorthak warriors. Open fire on the lead human vessels, Thexvor commanded. Show them the power of the Hive fleet. The order went out across the Vorthak fleet. 1,000 ships opened fire at once, filling space with energy beams and plasma torpedoes. It was a display of firepower that had broken the spirits of 17 species. But the human ships did not flee. They scattered like a school of fish, moving in patterns that seemed random, but somehow kept them just ahead of the Vorthak weapons, and as they moved, they began their own attack. It was not what the Vorthak expected. Instead of returning fire with conventional weapons, the human ships launched clouds of small objects. At first, Thexvor thought they were missiles or drones, but as the objects spread throughout the battle area, the truth became clear. They were cameras, thousands upon thousands of recording devices, each one focusing on a different Vorthak ship. Suddenly, every Vorthak warrior found themselves being watched, studied, recorded. Admiral, his communications officer called out in panic. The humans are broadcasting our faces. What? They are transmitting images of our crews to the entire galaxy. Every Vorthak warrior in the fleet is being filmed and identified. The main screen split into hundreds of small windows, each showing the face of a different Vorthak officer or crew member. Names appeared below each image. Service records, personal information, family data. For a species that had conquered through anonymity and terror, being identified and exposed felt like being stripped naked. How do they have this information? Thexvor demanded. Unknown, Admiral. But they know everything about us. Names, ranks, families, home colonies. The psychological effect on the Vorthak fleet was immediate. Warriors who had spent decades hiding behind masks and numbers suddenly found themselves exposed as individuals. The human ships continued their silent approach, and with each passing minute, more personal information appeared on the broadcasts. Then the human ships began a new tactic. They started talking, but they did not talk to the Vorthak fleet. They talked to the families of individual Vorthak warriors. Using captured communication frequencies, human voices began speaking directly to Vorthak homeworlds. Zeknala, of Hive Colony 7, this is Commander Sarah Chen of Earth Defense Forces. Your mate Vextor is currently commanding Destroyer Ship 447 in our system. He participated in the burning of New Eden, where he personally killed 1,847 humans, including 312 children. We want you to see what your mate has become. Images followed. Video recordings of Vorthak soldiers during the colony attacks. Detailed footage of the atrocities committed. Evidence that could not be denied or hidden. The effect on Vorthak morale was devastating. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we are receiving thousands of messages from the homeworlds. Families demanding explanations. Colony leaders questioning the war. Some are even calling for our recall. Thexvor watched his perfect fleet begin to fracture. The humans had done something no enemy had ever managed. They had made the Vorthak afraid, not of death in battle, but of judgment by their own people. Sir, his tactical officer buzzed nervously. The human fleet has stopped advancing. Thexvor looked at the display. The human ships had formed a perfect sphere around the Vorthak fleet. They were not attacking. They were not retreating. They were simply watching, waiting. What are they doing? Thexvor asked. His answer came from the communication system. A single human voice, calm and clear, speaking directly to him. Admiral Thexvor of the Vorthak Hive Fleet. This is Admiral Rebecca Torres of the Human Defense Coalition. We know who you are. We know what you have done, and we know where you come from." The screen showed a middle-aged human woman in a simple military uniform. She looked tired but determined. "You brought hell to our worlds, Admiral. You thought fear was your weapon, but you made one mistake. A what mistake?" Thexvor found himself asking. Admiral Torres smiled, and it was not a kind smile. "You assumed we did not know how to bring hell back." The human fleet began moving again, but not toward the Vorthak ships. They were leaving, simply turning around and departing the system, but they left behind their cameras. Thousands of recording devices, all still broadcasting, all still watching. "Admiral," his communications officer whispered, "what are your orders?" Thexvor stared at the retreating human fleet. They had not fired a single weapon. They had not destroyed a single Vorthak ship. But somehow they had won this battle more completely than any victory in Vorthak history. They had made the Vorthak afraid of their own shadows. "Signal the fleet," Thexvor ordered quietly. "We returned to Vorthak space, but Admiral, our orders were to conquer Earth." Thexvor looked at the thousands of cameras still watching them, still broadcasting their faces to the galaxy. "Earth can wait," he said. "We need to prepare for something we have never faced before." "What is that, Admiral?" "An enemy that fights back." The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Representatives from 47 different species sat in stunned silence as they watched the reports coming in from Vorthak space. The humans were hunting. Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Collective leaned forward in his floating chair, his tentacles wrapping nervously around the armrests. "This cannot be accurate," he said, his translator device converting his thoughts into standard galactic speech. "No species hunts the Vorthak. The Vorthak are the hunters." Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the center of the chamber, representing humanity for the first time in galactic politics. She looked calm, despite being surrounded by alien beings who still considered her species primitive. In her hands she held a datapad containing reports that had shaken the galaxy. "The reports are accurate, Ambassador," she said simply. "Human forces have been tracking individual Vorthak who participated in the colony attacks. We have identified 47,000 war criminals by name, rank, and location." "Tracking how?" asked the Casthan representative, his bird-like head tilting in confusion. "The Vorthak Empire spans 12 star systems. They have military bases on over 200 worlds." Sarah touched her datapad, and the chamber's central display lit up with a three-dimensional map of Vorthak space. Thousands of red dots appeared throughout the territory, each one marking a specific location. "We have assets in every Vorthak system," Sarah explained. "Surveillance networks, intelligence operatives, and what you might call collection teams." The Morvic delegate's scaled hide rippled with fear. His species had been conquered by the Vorthak 3 centuries ago. "Collection teams? You mean assassination squads?" "No," Sarah said, and her answer was somehow more disturbing than if she had said yes. "We collect them alive." The chamber erupted in confused buzzing, clicking, and harmonic sounds as the representatives tried to process this information. The idea of capturing Vorthak warriors alive was almost incomprehensible. Even other predator species avoided direct confrontation with the Hellbringers. "For what purpose?" Veltar asked. "To understand them," Sarah replied. "We have learned that the Vorthak fear 3 things above all others: isolation, silence, and the unknown. Our collection teams use this knowledge." She touched her pad again, and the display showed a video recording. The chamber watched as human soldiers moved through what appeared to be a Vorthak military facility. But these humans moved differently than any military force the galaxy had seen. They made no sound. They communicated through hand signals. They struck from shadows and vanished like ghosts. "Your forces fight like assassins," observed the Thurian representative. "No," Sarah corrected. "Assassins kill quickly. We fight like humans." The video showed Vorthak soldiers being separated from their units one by one. They were not killed. Instead, they were isolated, placed in soundproof containers, and taken away while their comrades slowly realized they were being picked off by an invisible enemy. "The psychological effect is remarkable," Sarah continued. "Vorthak warriors who have terrorized entire planets for decades begin to experience fear for the first time in their lives." "Where do you take them?" asked the Zelanti observer, her musical voice carrying notes of horrified fascination. "To study facilities," Sarah said. We want to understand everything about them. Their biology, their psychology, their culture, their fears. She showed them another recording. This one displayed a sterile white room, where a captured Vorthak warrior sat across a table from a human researcher. The human was asking questions in a calm, friendly voice while taking notes on a tablet. We have learned that Vorthak aggression comes from a deep cultural programming that views other species as resources to be harvested, Sarah explained. But underneath this programming, they are surprisingly similar to many other sapient species. They have families. They have doubts. They have fears. You are trying to understand monsters, Veltar said. Why? Sarah's expression grew colder. Because we want to know what makes monsters. And we want to know how to break them. The chamber's displays changed again, showing intelligence reports from across Vorthak space. The data was staggering. Human forces had somehow penetrated every level of Vorthak society. They knew the names of Vorthak leaders, the locations of secret bases, the details of military plans, and the personal fears of individual soldiers. How is this possible? Demanded the Thurian representative. The Vorthak Empire has the most sophisticated security in the galaxy. They had security designed to stop other aliens, Sarah replied. They were not prepared for humans. She displayed a final recording that made several representatives gasp in shock. It showed the inside of a Vorthak command center on their home world. Human operatives moved freely among Vorthak personnel, disguised so perfectly that the insectoid aliens could not tell them apart from their own species. Impossible, Veltar breathed. Humans and Vorthak have completely different biology. We are very good at pretending to be what we are not, Sarah said. It is one of our most useful survival traits. The recording showed a human agent, somehow modified to look like a Vorthak, accessing computer systems and copying classified information. The disguise was so perfect that real Vorthak soldiers worked alongside the human. Spy without suspicion. Your species has infiltrated the Vorthak Empire at every level, the Castan representative observed. This is unprecedented. Yes, Sarah agreed. We have been planning this for 3 months. Every Vorthak who participated in burning our colonies is marked. We know where they live, who their families are, what they fear most, and how to reach them. And what do you intend to do with this information? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried a weight that made the entire chamber uncomfortable. We are going to teach them what terror really means. She showed them one final piece of data. It was a simple message that had been broadcast simultaneously to every Vorthak military installation in the Empire. The message was short and written in perfect Vorthak script. We see you. We know you. We are coming. The psychological effect has been immediate, Sarah reported. Vorthak military efficiency has dropped by 60%. Desertions are at an all-time high. Several colony governors have requested transfers to non-military positions. You are destroying them without firing a shot, Veltar observed. We learned from you, Sarah said, looking directly at the Zephyrian ambassador. Your species taught us that the most effective weapons are often psychological. This was true. The Zephyrians were known for their mastery of mental manipulation, though they used it for diplomacy rather than war. But there is a difference, Sarah continued. You use psychology to build understanding. We use it to build fear. The chamber was silent again as the implications sank in. The humans had taken the galaxy's most feared predator species and turned them into prey, but they had done it in a way that was somehow more disturbing than simple violence. The Vorthak brought hell to our worlds, Sarah said. They thought they were teaching us about suffering. Instead, they taught us something much more valuable. What did they teach you? Veltar asked, though he was not sure he wanted to hear the answer. Sarah's smile was cold and sharp. They taught us that there is always a bigger predator. She gathered her datapad and prepared to leave the chamber. The Galactic Council wanted to know about human military capabilities. Now you know. We do not fight like other species. We do not think like other species. When someone brings hell to our worlds, we do not despair. She paused at the chamber door and looked back at the assembled representatives. We go hunting. After Sarah left, the chamber remained silent for nearly an hour. Finally, Veltar spoke what they were all thinking. We may have underestimated the humans. Underestimated how? Asked the Morvic delegate. We thought they were a young species that needed protection from predators like the Vorthak, Veltar said quietly. We did not realize that they were predators themselves. The Castan representative pulled up the data on his personal device, studying the reports of human operations in Vorthak space. Look at these infiltration techniques. The psychological warfare, the systematic hunting of individual targets, what about it? This is not the work of a species learning to fight, the Castan said. This is the work of a species that has always been fighting things much worse than the Vorthak. The assembled representatives looked at each other with growing unease. They had invited humanity into galactic civilization as a junior partner, a species that needed guidance and protection. Instead, they had given membership to something that hunted the hunters. Perhaps, Veltar said slowly, we should be asking a different question. What question? Not whether the humans can defeat the Vorthak, Veltar replied, but whether they will stop with the Vorthak. The research facility on Luna Station hummed with quiet activity. Dr. Elena Vasquez walked through the sterile corridors, her footsteps echoing off the metal walls. As the galaxy's leading expert on comparative evolution, she had been called in to answer a question that was keeping the Galactic Council awake at night. Why were humans so good at hunting predators? The answer she had found was more disturbing than anyone had expected. Dr. Vasquez, her assistant called out as she entered the main laboratory. Ambassador Veltar is here for the briefing. Elena nodded and activated the holographic display system. The Zephyrian ambassador floated in his environmental suit, his tentacles moving nervously as he waited for her report. Thank you for coming, Ambassador, Elena said. I think you need to see what we have discovered. The Council is very interested in your findings, Veltar replied. The human military success against the Vorthak has surprised us. Elena pulled up a three-dimensional model of human evolutionary history. The display showed Earth as it was millions of years ago, populated by massive predators that dwarfed any creature currently alive. Tell me, Ambassador, what do you know about human evolution? Only what is in your species' public records, Veltar admitted. Humans evolved from small mammals that developed intelligence and tool use. That is correct but incomplete, Elena said. She manipulated the display to show early human ancestors. What makes human evolution unique is not just that we developed intelligence. It is that we developed intelligence while being hunted. The hologram showed prehistoric Earth, populated by enormous predators, saber-toothed cats with fangs longer than human arms, cave bears that weighed more than small spacecraft, giant wolves that hunted in packs of 50 or more. Every other sapient species in the galaxy evolved as the apex predator of their world, Elena continued. The Vorthak evolved from hive insects that had no natural enemies. Your people evolved from ocean creatures that were the largest in their seas. The Thurians evolved from flying hunters that ruled their skies. Yes, Veltar agreed. This is normal. Intelligence develops when a species has the security to think beyond mere survival. Exactly, Elena said. But humans are different. We evolved from prey animals that learned to hunt their hunters. She showed him fossil records of early human settlements. They were not built in open areas where apex predators would live. They were built in caves and trees in places where larger predators could not easily reach. For millions of years, humans were food for everything bigger than us, Elena explained. We should have gone extinct. Instead, we did something unprecedented in galactic evolution. What did you do? We learned to kill things that were designed to kill us. The display changed to show human hunting techniques from throughout history. Groups of early humans using tools and tactics to bring down creatures 10 times their size. Persistence hunting where humans would chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. Trap construction that could capture and kill predators much larger and stronger than any individual human. Your species developed cooperation, tool use, and strategic thinking as survival mechanisms, Veltar observed. Yes, but more than that, Elena said. We developed the ability to understand predators better than they understood themselves. She showed him detailed studies of human psychology. Brain scans that revealed how human minds processed threat assessment, pattern recognition, and predator behavior. Humans can look at any creature and instinctively understand how it hunts, what it fears, and how to kill it, Elena explained. This is not learned behavior. It is genetic programming that goes back millions of years. You are saying that humans are naturally designed to fight predators. I am saying that humans are naturally designed to become better predators than anything that tries to prey on them. Elena pulled up comparative studies of human Military tactics versus those of other galactic species. The differences were stark. Look at how other species wage war, she said. The Thurians rely on superior technology. The Casthan use overwhelming numbers. The Morvic depend on defensive strategies. Standard military doctrine, Veltar agreed. But humans do something different. They study their enemies. They learn how their enemies think. Then they become their enemies, but better. The display showed recordings from the current conflict with the Vorthak. Human soldiers using Vorthak's psychological weaknesses against them. Human infiltrators who could pass for Vorthak even under close inspection. Human tactics that seemed to anticipate Vorthak strategies before the Vorthak themselves knew what they were going to do. This is what makes the human approach to warfare so effective, Elena continued. They do not just fight their enemies. They become their enemy's worst nightmare. How is this possible? Elena showed him brain scan comparisons between humans and other galactic species. The differences were subtle but significant. Humans have larger mirror neuron networks than any other known sapient species, she explained. These are the brain structures that allow them to understand and mimic the behavior of other creatures. For what evolutionary purpose? Originally to predict predator behavior and avoid being eaten, Elena said. But the same neural structures that helped early humans avoid becoming prey also allow modern humans to understand and exploit the weaknesses of any opponent. She displayed psychological profiles of captured Vorthak prisoners. The data showed remarkable insights into Vorthak behavior patterns, fear responses, and decision-making processes. Human interrogators have learned more about Vorthak psychology in 3 months than the Galactic Council learned in 3 centuries, Elena noted. Because humans instinctively understand how predator minds work. This explains their military success, Veltar said slowly. But it raises other concerns. What concerns? If humans are naturally programmed to hunt predators, what happens when there are no more predators to hunt? Elena was quiet for a moment. She had been wondering the same thing. I have been studying human history, she said finally. When humans eliminated the natural predators on their world, they did not stop hunting. What did they hunt instead? Each other. The display showed records of human conflicts throughout their history. Wars, conquests, and competitions that spanned thousands of years. Humans fighting humans with the same intensity and cunning they had once used against giant predators. Human civilization is built on controlled predation, Elena explained. Sports, business competition, political contests, even entertainment. All of these are sublimated hunting behaviors. Are you saying that humans need to hunt? I am saying that humans will hunt whether they need to or not, Elena replied. It is what they are designed to do. Veltar's tentacles tightened around his mobility device. And now they have encountered the galaxy's apex predator species. Yes, and they are doing exactly what millions of years of evolution programmed them to do. Which is? They are learning to become better Vorthak than the Vorthak themselves. Elena showed him the final piece of data. Psychological evaluations of human soldiers who had been fighting the Vorthak. The results were both fascinating and terrifying. Extended exposure to Vorthak tactics has caused human military personnel to develop enhanced predatory instincts, she explained. They are becoming more efficient, more ruthless, and more psychologically sophisticated. You mean the war is changing them? I mean the war is making them evolve, Elena corrected. In real time, human soldiers who survive encounters with the Vorthak are becoming something new, something harder. What are they becoming? Elena looked at the data for a long moment before answering. The next apex predator, she said quietly. Veltar was silent as he absorbed this information. Finally, he spoke the question that had brought him to Luna Station. Dr. Vasquez, in your professional opinion, can the humans be controlled? Elena looked at the evolutionary data, the psychological profiles, and the combat reports. She thought about millions of years of human development that had produced a species capable of hunting anything that threatened them. Ambassador, she said carefully, I think the better question is whether they will choose to control themselves. And if they choose not to? Elena gestured to the holographic display showing the current state of the war. Human forces systematically dismantling the galaxy's most feared empire with a combination of cunning, brutality, and psychological warfare that no other species had ever imagined possible. Then the galaxy has a new apex predator, she said. And this time, It is one that learned to hunt by being hunted. Veltar left Luna Station with more questions than answers. As his ship departed Earth space, he looked back at the blue world that had produced such a dangerous species. On the surface below, 8 billion humans went about their daily lives. Working, playing, loving, and dreaming. They looked peaceful and civilized, but now Veltar knew the truth. They were predators pretending to be prey, and they had just remembered how to hunt. Captain Zekthul sat in a small white room on the human space station called Mercy's End. Through the viewport he could see the ruins of what had once been the Vorthak homeworld. The planet below was not destroyed. It was something much worse than destroyed. It was peaceful. "How are you feeling today, Zekthul?" asked the human woman sitting across from him. Dr. Rebecca Santos had been his counselor for 6 months now. She asked the same question every day, and every day he gave the same answer. "I do not understand," he said. Rebecca nodded and made a note on her tablet. She was patient with him, as all the human counselors were patient with their Vorthak clients. This patience was perhaps the most disturbing thing about the entire situation. "What specifically do you not understand today?" she asked. Zekthul looked around the room. It was comfortable, with soft lighting and plants that reminded him of his home colony. The humans had designed it specifically to make Vorthak feel calm. They had researched Vorthak psychology so thoroughly that they could create environments more soothing than anything the Vorthak had ever built for themselves. "You won," Zekthul said slowly. "You defeated the entire Vorthak Empire. We surrendered completely. Why do you not harvest us?" This was the question he asked most often. In Vorthak culture, victory meant domination. The winner took everything from the loser: resources, territory, lives, fear. But the humans had done something unprecedented in galactic history. They had won completely and then chosen mercy. "Because harvesting you would make us like you," Rebecca explained, as she had explained hundreds of times before. "And we decided we did not want to become like you." "Then why do you not simply kill us?" "Because killing you would also make us like you," Rebecca said. "And that is not who we choose to be." Zekthul's mandibles clicked in frustration. After months of counseling, he still could not understand human logic. In his mind, there were only 2 possible outcomes when one species defeated another: domination or extinction. The humans had chosen a third option that made no sense to him: rehabilitation. "Tell me about your dreams again," Rebecca said. This was another daily routine. Zekthul was required to discuss his dreams with his counselor. At first he had refused, but the humans had ways of encouraging cooperation that were both completely humane and absolutely irresistible. They had introduced him to other Vorthak who were further along in their rehabilitation. "I dreamed about New Eden again," Zekthul admitted. "The same dream?" "Yes, but it was different this time." In his dreams, Zekthul stood on the surface of New Eden as it burned. But instead of feeling satisfaction at the destruction, he felt something else. Something the humans called guilt. It was an emotion that Vorthak were not supposed to be capable of experiencing. "Different how?" "I saw the human children who died," Zekthul said quietly. "I saw their faces. I tried to stop the burning, but it was too late." Rebecca made another note. "How did that make you feel?" Zekthul was quiet for a long time. The humans had taught him words for emotions he had never experienced before: remorse, empathy, shame. Learning these concepts had been more painful than any physical torture. "Sad," he said finally. "It made me feel sad." "Why do you think you felt sad?" "Because I understand now that they were people, not resources." This had been the core of human rehabilitation techniques. They did not break their prisoners with pain or fear. Instead, they did something much more devastating. They taught them empathy. Every Vorthak prisoner was required to study the lives of their victims, not just as numbers or statistics, but as individuals. They learned about human families, human dreams, human love. They were shown recordings of the people they had killed, talking about their hopes and fears. The psychological effect was devastating. Vorthak warriors who had spent centuries viewing other species as livestock slowly began to understand that their victims had been people just like themselves. "Very good," Rebecca said. "Your empathy response is developing well." Zekthul looked out the viewport again. On the planet below, Former Vorthak soldiers worked alongside human supervisors in reconstruction projects. They were building schools, hospitals, and homes, not for humans, but for themselves and their families. The humans had given them a choice: rehabilitation or exile to a dead world with no resources. Most had chosen rehabilitation. Those who chose exile discovered that surviving without the infrastructure of civilization was much harder than they had expected. Many eventually requested transfer to rehabilitation facilities. "I have a question," Zekthul said. "What is it?" "The other species in the galaxy. Do they understand what you did to us?" Rebecca smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "No, most of them think we were too merciful." This was true. The Galactic Council had expected humans to either destroy the Vorthak Empire or claim it as territory. Instead, humans had done something that confused and frightened their galactic neighbors. They had taken the galaxy's most dangerous predator species and turned them into productive citizens. Ambassador Veltar visited last week, Rebecca continued. He wanted to understand our rehabilitation methods. What did you tell him? I told him that we learned from you. Zekthul's compound eyes focused on her. Learned what? We learned what happens when a species convinces itself that other people are not really people, Rebecca said. We decided we did not want to make that mistake. This was the genius of human rehabilitation techniques. They did not try to change Vorthak nature. Instead, they expanded Vorthak understanding of what constituted their community. Gradually, carefully, they taught Vorthak to include other species in their definition of people. The work crews report that you have been helping human technicians with the power grid repairs. Rebecca noted. Yes. How does that make you feel? Useful, Zekthul said. It makes me feel useful. This was another crucial element of the rehabilitation program. Humans gave their former enemies meaningful work. Not punishment labor, but genuine contribution to rebuilding the damaged worlds. Former Vorthak warriors found purpose in construction, agriculture, and education. Many discovered they preferred creating things to destroying them. I have been thinking, Zekthul said. About what? About the future. What happens when our rehabilitation is complete? Rebecca consulted her tablet. What would you like to happen? I would like to work with the human medical teams, Zekthul said. Some of the other species are still afraid of Vorthak. But if we could help heal people instead of hurting them, you want to make amends, yes, is that possible? Anything is possible, Rebecca said. But it will take time. Some wounds take longer to heal than others. She was right. Many of the species that had been conquered by the Vorthak were not ready to accept their former oppressors as allies. But humans were patient. They understood that true change took generations, not months. Dr. Santos, Zekthul said, may I ask you a personal question? Of course, were you afraid of us? When we first attacked your colonies? Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Yes, she said finally. We were terrified. Then why did you choose mercy over revenge? Because, Rebecca said, we realized that revenge would not bring back the people we lost. But mercy might prevent others from losing the people they love. Zekthul thought about this for a long time. The human approach to justice was completely alien to everything he had been taught. In Vorthak culture, strength meant the ability to inflict suffering. In human culture, strength meant the ability to choose not to inflict suffering. The other species in the galaxy, Zekthul said, they think you are dangerous. Are they right? Zekthul looked at his counselor, this small, soft human woman who had spent months patiently teaching a former war criminal how to feel empathy, who had somehow convinced an entire empire of predators to choose cooperation over conquest. Yes, he said, you are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Why? Because you can make anyone become like you, Zekthul said. Even us. Rebecca smiled again, and this time it was warm and genuine. Is that a bad thing? Zekthul thought about his dreams, where he tried to save human children instead of killing them. He thought about the satisfaction he felt when helping repair damaged infrastructure. He thought about the hope he had begun to feel for a future where Vorthak and humans worked together. No, he said quietly, I do not think it is a bad thing. Outside the viewport, the sun was setting over the former Vorthak homeworld. In the growing darkness, lights began to appear, not the harsh military lights of the old empire, but warm, welcoming lights of homes and schools and hospitals, the lights of a civilization learning to live in peace. Dr. Santos, Zekthul said, I think I understand now. Understand what? Why the other species are afraid of you, he said. You did not just defeat us. You made us want to become better. Rebecca nodded. That was always the plan. And if other species threaten you, then we will make them want to become better too. Zekthul looked out at the peaceful world below and felt something he had never experienced in his long career as a warrior. He felt hope. The humans had brought something to the galaxy that was more powerful than any weapon. They had brought the possibility of redemption, and they had proven that even the worst monsters could choose to become something else. The galaxy would never be the same,